Akash, just one more point before I move on to the other panelists. Today we are already talking about, we've all heard of last mile delivery, right? Today we are talking about last meter delivery. And last meter delivery is being achieved through drones, right? So as a delivery company, how do you see the integration of drone delivery services, let's say groceries or small packets or small parcels from, let's say, the apartment complex gate to the apartment itself or the doorstep of the apartment. So how do you see integration of drone delivery? Obviously today in India, we still have a lot of ground to cover in terms of regulation or air corridor control, dedicated air corridor for drone delivery and so on. I was just driving from Delhi this morning. I saw, I think I was passing one of the army enclosures, and it said, trespassers will be shot. Drones not allowed here. So, I mean, we still have a lot of questions to answer. So, how do you see integration of drone delivery, into the overall electric delivery mechanism?
So we are definitely very bullish about it, right? We have already made a small investment in one of the drone companies who's building drones, and the idea is to extend from two-wheelers possibly to drones, because they are also electric. Correct. The best part is that they are all electric. How it integrates very well with the delivery ecosystem is that, because almost drone functionality today, as per the regulations, is mostly working like there's an airport, right, where a plane lands. Drones also have cordoned areas. Correct. Where drones can land. As per today, you cannot just have a drone deliver in your balcony. I wish that day will come soon. But till that time, I think it's highly integrated, because drones can deliver to a periphery where are not a lot of humans, so that once all these concerns of human lives and drones dropping get solved, then drones will have their own parking lot, and that's where an electric vehicle can pick up goods and deliver to the end mile to the customer's house, right? That is one way that it is getting plugged quite a lot, especially in the medicine, and the blood sample collection and all of that. We are already doing some of those pilots in different geographies. Great initiative can always, be done, and still we are exploring is in hilly areas where, if a delivery of a sample could take, hours, it can be done within, minutes, right? So that ways drone is getting plugged in. But yeah, obviously, I think it'll take at least 18 to 24 months for us to see a little bit more traction on this. But yeah, it's still moving fast. Recent regulation was very, very interesting, where government is asking to indigenize drones rather than import, right? So that will uplift the ecosystem quite a lot.
Perfect. Thanks for those points, Akash. Appreciate it. Saurav, I'll come to you now. You're the CEO and founder of Euler Motors, and I've been reading about Euler Motors for many years now. Very impressed with the work you do, and I'm also happy, to see that you have just invested, almost 200 crores to expand your manufacturing capacity from about 4K to 35K. Right? Am I correct on those numbers? Yeah. So congratulations on that. And what you are doing differently, the way I see it is, you are investing in state-of-the-art manufacturing, EV manufacturing facility, right? I also read one of the articles where you said you want to reduce dependency on the value chain by doing as many things as possible, by yourselves or in-house. Tell us about that, because today, I think Nitin also mentioned, talking about the challenges in the value chain, because you've got multiple players, EV motors, battery manufacturers, BMS, thermal management, energy management. So how are you looking at this? How do you see Euler Motors becoming an end-to-end, let's say, for example, player in the e-mobility space, looking at the entire ecosystem, EV ecosystem?
Thanks for having me. So we started in 2018. And a lot of our viewpoints when we started, we focused on the commercial vehicle segment. And our intention was to be an OEM in this space, continues to be one of the largest, I hope. But one of the things that we realized was, to be an OEM in 18, you had to also solve for charging station, service station, rest of the ecosystem, financing. If you don't have any of that, if you are not
on that, please, on that microphone,
if you're not a full stack player, you are not going to be the sort of the leader to push the e-mobility space. So we started doing that. I would say it would be incorrect to say that we would want to only do everything ourselves. I think our intention is to accelerate this transition, and for that we would need a lot of partners.
Right.
We would need partners in terms of manufacturing, in terms of demand, in terms of upscaling, in terms of charging station, financing, everywhere. Oiler alone can't do everything, right? I mean, that's fundamental truth. So, and while all of that is going to happen, we are not going to wait for everyone to come up. So that was probably the intention of me trying to say that we are into, we have a 100% subsidiary in the mobility division to help some of these our end customer, like your e-commerce, FMCG, understand what the electric vehicle can do. But that doesn't mean we want to own a logistics company 100% and do it everything ourselves. We are partnering with a lot of companies to help. So basically, let's say fleet owners and transporters, and helping them buy these vehicles, get them financed, and so that they also have an end customer. Similarly, let's just say if you take from a charging station point of view, we do own a network of 200 fast chargers in Delhi NCR. We across 13 hubs. We have 200 slow AC001 stations as well. So roughly around 400 points that we have set up. These are aggregated across different big parking lot kind of structure. But that doesn't mean we alone can do that. We will have to work with. So we are working with other charging station, charge point operators on the AC001 and DC001, and making sure our vehicle can charge at home, can charge at our charging station, can also charge with any other charging station. So yeah, so you will require all these. And similar example could be in financing as well. Like the first few hundred vehicles, we deployed them through our equity. That was the most expensive capital that you can raise, because there was no financer back then who can finance our vehicle at a IRR or at a down payment that would make sense. In 18 commercial three-wheeler cargo, a good cargo vehicle was, we spoke about quality, a good vehicle earlier in the panel. I was listening to that. So all of that was non-existing. So forget about from a finance, get that finance. But today we are working with 10 to 15 financiers who are financing these vehicles on ground.
Right.
So going forward as well, I think what we would want to do, we would probably be the first guys out there to deploy the ecosystem required to move the transition, but we would require to work with everyone. On the manufacturing side, yes, we've just invested into a 4 lakh square feet, 10 acres roughly space that would do 35,000 vehicle a year annual production on the three-wheeler cargo. And that's mainly because we launched the vehicle last October, high load, and it has already got like an unprecedented amount of demand. And the speed at which we were thinking the market was at, and being an OEM, I think we read the market wrong. And I think the demand is not the problem. Yesterday I was reading, I think Piyush Goyal also talked about something similar, that in electric vehicle demand is not, and this is something that I've been saying in 18, I think every e-commerce FMCG company wanted to go to electric, but the ecosystem didn't allow them to go. So today also, as there are more and more vehicle coming out there, your charging station, your financing, all of that ecosystem building up, the rate at which we are looking at this transition, I think by the time we will get the other factory up, let's just say by end of the year, I think we might have to think about another one. I mean, that's my read.
Let's hope that's true, right? The point which you made again, I think Nitin and Sohinder also spoke is about financing, right? You just said you work with about 15 financiers. Is that correct? Okay. So how did that turnaround happen? Because what did you have to do to address some of the challenges that they spoke about, right? Because they still don't know how an electric vehicle functions, reliability and so on. What did you do to bring about that turnaround? Was it something of a mindset change? Something you showed them about technology, reliability? How did that happen?
So we fundamentally looked at the problem, why financing is not happening. If you fundamentally look, it boils down to 2-3 things from first principle. One, the technology that is in the vehicle it's someone is running vehicle with LFP battery, someone is doing NCM, somebody is doing NCA, somebody is doing air cool, somebody is doing liquid cool. How do you assess the secondary value of these vehicle from a technology standpoint? So there's a fundamental risk involved. I mean, if you are an OEM who has invested, like for instance, Euler, we are doing liquid cooled battery pack. We guarantee 5 years on the battery pack. We make sure, and these have come from 1.5 million kilometers, our vehicle, these 200, 300 vehicle, we ran it for 3 years just to get these data points on degradation. We have seen 3 summers, 3 winters, we have waterlogged area. So that gave financer a comfort on the technology side. The second was on the business side. You made a good vehicle, let's just say, but what is your end customer saying? Let's just say today your end customer, be it your Flipkart or Amazon, e-commerce is obviously taking a lead over here. What are they thinking about the cost of earnability, right? And because earnability is what defines how much money that guy will make at the end of the day, and if they will be able to pay their cost of financing, right? So that is the earnability. So getting businesses buy-in into, so taking out the business risk. As a OEM, I can take out the your technology risk. As a business partner, somebody has to be also bought into the picture to take the business risk. I will use this vehicle for 3 years and I will pay these this INR per month if my SLAs are met. So that takes away the business risk. Together, then you work with a financer saying that these two paths are covered. Why don't you finance the vehicle? So I think that is the only thing that has worked for us. We have tried many things.
Excellent learning. Something everybody can adopt. Shiva, I'll come to you now. You are responsible for supply and city operations at Uber. So again, probably your perspectives to start off with, especially on the financing side, because obviously when you talk about electrification, in the aggregator segment, there are a different set of challenges, right? You've got the driver partners, because in many cases you don't own the vehicles, right? What challenges do you see in let's say convincing or pushing driver partners to adopt electrification or adopt electric vehicles? Is that something you have seen in the recent past? Because I have seen quite a few Uber electric vehicles, at least branded. How do you see Uber taking that step towards increasing the share of electric vehicles mainstream? What are your thoughts there?
Got it. Thanks, Kaushik. So at the outset, Uber strongly believes in electrification, right? So the CEO has committed to 100% electrification of all vehicles globally by 2040. Now the path for that is going to be very different for different regions. There are Western countries which are ahead of the curve, and then India is probably at the starting point of the curve. And even within India, the journey across products is going to be very different. Our core hypothesis is three-wheeler segment will be the first to penetrate in ride sharing in the aggregator segment, because there is a perfect product market fit and the economics make sense for the drivers today to buy a vehicle, fly it profitably on the platform.
Right.
The challenge with two-wheelers today is while there is immense penetration on the personal sales side, especially in a ride-sharing industry, you're going to put 2 people on the vehicle, which drastically reduces the range of the vehicle, which in turn impacts the earning capacity and the number of kilometers that it can fly on the platform. So that's a challenge that we're trying to counter. We are actually working with Zip. We have Zip vehicles on the platform. We're doing a few pilots to see what we need to do as an aggregator to enable them to earn more, like faster access to charging infrastructure, right, as they move around. Four-wheeler for us proposes a very different challenge because one, the economics does not make sense. Second, we don't have a product which is available in the market today. There are only 2 viable products in the market. There is one from Tata and one from Mahindra. On the commercial side, there is just one product. Only Tata has a product on the commercial side. Mahindra does not have a product. And the wait time, given the supply chain constraints that's happening in the OEM side, is running into many, many months. So the access to these vehicles is becoming a fundamental problem for us to put these vehicles on the platform. The second point is the price. The second problem is the price point at which these vehicles come today. Even after including your FAME subsidies, and let's say even after subsidies from Uber, the unit economics is still off from a CNG or a petrol vehicle by at least 25 to 30%.
Right.
So the net earnings for the driver is lower by 25 to 30%. So for faster adoption on the four-wheeler side, one, we need better choice of models to choose from at the right price point. And more importantly, range is obviously a factor that I'm not going into, given that's a larger issue that needs to be addressed, because drivers who play on the platform don't want to do only intracity. They want to do intercity to augment earnings. And today that is not a possibility on EV particularly, all right? And the challenge for independent owners to buy a vehicle is the uncertainty that they will live with when they own this asset.
Right.
What will be the resale value of this vehicle after 4 years? And most of the, almost 80% of the drivers are independent owners on the platform. They're buying a vehicle for a livelihood. So why would someone buy a 10, 12 lakh vehicle and live with the uncertainty for 4 years, not knowing what will happen to my battery pack? How soon should I replace the battery pack? What will be the resale value of the vehicle? Right. So that's, I think it's going to be a journey towards that. And on four-wheelers especially, we believe that there'll be fleets which will have a faster rate of adoption, correct, and then it will kind of converge into the independent owners who will start buying EVs.
Correct. So the way I look at it, from what you said, the lack of OEM options itself is a big deterrent, right? That's understandable. Hopefully we'll see more. Interestingly, continuing with you, Prabjeet Singh, who's the head of Uber in India, said the path to electrification in India is through CNG, right? Very interesting, because India has always believed in leapfrogging, right? You heard from the Honourable Minister earlier today as well. And we have seen that, we went from BS4 to BS6, right? We're already talking about large scale electrification. So it's very interesting to hear that perspective, from Prabjeet, who says, we will first go through a wave of CNGification before we see electrification. Why do you say that? I mean, considering the fact that we love leapfrogging, don't you feel it might be better to just go straight to electric rather than going through CNG?
I think the ecosystem is not ready. We strongly believe the CNG ecosystem is at an inflection point today. Right. The infra is much developed in cities like Delhi, in Bombay. Hyderabad is picking up. Bangalore and Chennai are slightly behind the curve, but we're seeing very fast traction there. The earnings proposition makes a lot more sense. It is sustainable. It's a sustainable fuel, right, at the end of the day. And as we talk about sustainability, I think CNG is the path to sustainability, and then eventually converging with EVs. There are various options to choose from in the market. In fact, Maruti has stopped manufacturing diesel vehicles. They've moved completely to CNG vehicles for commercial purpose, which is a big boost to the CNG industry. And that's why we strongly feel sustainability is going to be through CNG and will eventually end with EV once the ecosystem is ready for it.
Excellent, very good point. So Shiva, I'll come to you back, Arindam, to reflect on a couple of points you made. I loved when you said digital learning content, right? I mean, today we are already talking about industry academia collaboration, classic examples of IIT Delhi or IIT Madras, who are already working with the industry stakeholders to actually change and revamp the courses, right? How do you see with technology redundancy in the electric space, right? When we talk about, for example, battery chemistry, today we've got LFP, LTO, you name it, NMC. In the next few years, who knows? It's going to be a completely new chemistry. So how, from a skill development perspective or a course development perspective, how do you tackle technology redundancy? Because you never know what is going to come up in the next few years. So how do you see reskilling and upskilling playing a role in addressing redundancy of technologies?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the most important thing that we are also focusing currently is in terms of upskilling and reskilling of existing manpower. So our current focus, the partners that we work with in terms of delivering such program for upskilling, reskilling, whether it's on the manufacturing, design side, service side, even sales and driving. Right. People who do the selling and driving also need their awareness, their share of the awareness of the technology at a different scale. And digital learning, simulated learning is going to become very important. The other big piece that I want to flag off here is that in the IC engine industry, it's been largely about manufacturing because the technology was like a stable technology. In case of electric vehicles, we do see a lot more requirement coming up in terms of people who would have the design and testing skills in terms of the vehicle and the components as well. And this is a very fluid situation. So you need to understand the basic principles and keep innovating and experimenting. And you have to build a skilled workforce who is adapted to that. Earlier, it was more about that, okay, fine, you know machining, so you can just go bang, 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 and you know Kaizen, you know productivity, TPM, etc., etc. And you have a basic skill which is about machining, and you can survive the industry for the rest of your life. Today, it's not going to happen like that. Today, it's probably that if I am in the battery technologies, as you said, is going to change so much. Electronics itself, the software, the OTA, all of these elements are happening at various different applications. In fact, battery swapping policy, once it has come now, we are looking at, how do you train people to manage this whole business of battery swapping? Because people will need to do various levels of optimization, planning, and as you rightly said, and what Mr. Gupta has also said, that there is so much difference between the different kinds of batteries, the voltages, and all of that. So there is price point of electricity in which you do charging, and commercial operators will have that as a significant element in their whole calculation. How do you train manpower to be able to deliver those options to ecosystem players is what our focus would have to be.
Got it.